Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Joanna Hall, and I'm the CEO of Planet Wild. And as a reminder, Planet Wild, we're the ones that have been hosting this Less Lawn, More Life challenge for about 3 years now, but in deep collaboration and partnership with our incredible allies and partners. One of which you are going to hear from again today, Wild Ones. But before we kick off the webinar, this is our last official event for the challenge this year, for this year's 12-week Less Lawn, More Life challenge. We'll be back, don't worry. But because it is our last one, I did just want to say a very deep and heartfelt thank you to all of our partners and to all of the incredible participants. We've all been frankly blown away by the engagement and the success of the challenge this year. So we had over 8,000 total participants across 49 states across America. About 4,000, probably more by now, have taken the Wilder score, have gotten their Wilder score. And the engagement has just been incredible. So whether it was on Facebook, watching people share photos and give peer-to-peer support and answers, whether it was on these webinars and the office hours and Q&A, incredible questions and experts, or whether it was on Instagram as well. So as well as the folks that have been sending in photos and videos of their own personal transformations on their yards. We love seeing those examples. For those who haven't yet sent them but want to send some in, please do. We're going to make a little sizzle video like we did last year and share it with all the participants. It's a really nice way to kind of celebrate and mark the moment. So please send any pictures that you'd like to send along and we will incorporate. And perhaps most importantly, one of the things that we have been incubating together as a community really is this Wilder score. So this is our third year doing the challenge. Year one, we began gathering data, whether it was through the INET observations, whether it was through the user surveys, all of that building to where we are today, which is this manifestation, this Wilder score, where anyone can very simply, even just with a mobile phone and a few minutes, get a rough sense of the ecological health of their land. And so we feel like that has been sort of built by and for the community. We're thrilled by the fact that we've just launched 1.5, which hopefully many of you have seen, and now is integrated with iNaturalist, which is a major step up in terms of making it more scientifically accurate and rigorous. And much more to come. And so with that, we're actually very excited to announce two things. One, hopefully you saw that it is going to be integrated in the Homegrown National Parks map. So anyone that has a Wilder score that's also on the map, your Wilder score will show up on the map. And if you haven't yet done that or not yet on the map, get on the map and also get your score, and you can just continue to spread the word that way. In addition, we're going to be having a full national launch of this tool and this product for all. And so we're going to be doing a launch event in September with more to announce there, and you will all be invited because, again, we feel like this community has really helped us build this. It's something that your feedback is directly driving the roadmap towards. So with that, stay tuned. More information coming from us, but this is officially the end of the challenge. So get all your questions in. We've got a great expert coming up who's going to help you think about now what? How do we spread the word? Right now that, hopefully we've had our own experience and begun to learn a little bit more, how do we take that knowledge, that enthusiasm, and begin to share that with neighbors and with our community and just get this movement moving even faster to rewild America? So thank you very much for everyone. And with that, I will turn it over to Lisa Olson from Wild Ones.
Welcome, everyone. Whether you just discovered native plants or have been with us every step of the way, I'm so glad you're here. Thousands of people participated in the Less Lawn, More Life challenge, each of you helping to restore biodiversity, 1 yard, 1 action at a time. Today, we're celebrating what we've accomplished and looking ahead, because this isn't just about planting milkweed or pulling in vases. It's about how we live, how we connect to place and community, and how we grow a movement rooted in care. The Less Lawn, More Life Challenge reflects the power of collaboration. Wild Ones is proud to be a part of this national effort to inspire change through action, and we're especially grateful to Planet Wild for bringing together so many dedicated partners to make this challenge possible. When organizations come together around a shared purpose, restoring land, rebuilding connection, and inspiring action, we can do more than we could ever do alone. This challenge is just one example of how aligned efforts can lead to meaningful impact. Hi, I'm Lisa Olson, a chapter liaison with Wild Ones, a member-supported national nonprofit that connects people and native plants for a healthy planet. Wild Ones promotes native plants and natural landscapes through education, advocacy, and collaborative action. We believe native plants are the foundation of a thriving ecosystem, and that restoring them is one of the most meaningful ways we can support biodiversity and strengthen our connection to the natural world. Wild Ones grows this movement through our local chapters, organizing educational programming, conducting community outreach, and stewarding native habitat projects in neighborhoods, parks, and public spaces across the country. We support our dedicated volunteer chapter leaders by providing opportunities to connect, share ideas, overcome challenges, and celebrate successes. We also work with individuals who are interested in starting new chapters, helping them bring about meaningful change in their own communities. If there's a chapter near you, we invite you to get involved. If not, please reach out. We'd love to help you start one. There's room for everyone in this movement. Let's take a moment to reflect on what we've accomplished together through the Less Lawn, More Life Challenge. In just 12 weeks, you turned intention into action and made space for life to return. You scored your yards, planted native plants, trees, and shrubs, observed wildlife, and learned to spot and remove invasive species. You took steps to protect pollinators, restore balance, and welcome biodiversity back into your yards. Some actions were small, some were messy, all were meaningful. This wasn't a checklist, it was a shared transformation. Each week invited us to reimagine our yards, yes, but also our habits, our awareness, our role in the ecosystem. This was about growth, inside and out, and you showed up beautifully. The Less Lawn, More Life Challenge is successful because you showed up. You took action. You got your hands in the soil. You turned your yard into a sanctuary. But let's take a step back and consider the bigger picture. We live in a country of over 340 million people and a world of over 8 billion people. What we've done here matters, but we know the scale of the challenges we face: habitat loss, climate disruption, disconnection from nature. So the real question becomes, how do we go from the personal to the collective, from the backyard to the block, to the broader movement? This challenge was never just about yards. It's about reconnection to land, to life, to community. It's about shifting culture, one planting, one story at a time. The next step? Keep growing, keep sharing, keep showing others what's possible. This is how movements take root and how we build a future that's wild, welcoming, and alive. Wild Ones operates in the space of biocultural restoration, rekindling people's connection to and respect for the land. Like many of you, I came into this work gradually, along a winding path defined by curiosity, community, and a deepening sense of purpose. My path into this work has been shaped by a lot of doing. I've worked as a baker, a canner, a gardener. I like working with my hands. For many years, I have worked at my local nursery, helping people choose plants for their home landscapes. Everything I know about plants came through continuing education, volunteering, and hands-on experience, workshops, webinars, seed collections, conversations. I'm still learning. I was born in 1969, the same year the EPA was founded. and I was lucky to grow up in a family that spent time outside. We camped in the mountains and deserts and visited county, state, and national parks. My grandmother passed along her love of public gardens and horticulture. And growing up with two librarian parents, I was always surrounded by books. The books I loved most featured animals as the protagonists. Stories of survival, of resilience in the face of habitat loss and human expansion. Those stories stayed with me. They shaped how I see the world and my place in it. Over the years, I've come to realize that one of the most meaningful ways I can contribute isn't just through my own actions, but by helping others find their way into this work, through volunteering, through learning, through community. It's deeply rewarding to see someone light up when they realize they can make a difference right where they are, and that their actions, however small, can spark real change. Which brings us to the next idea. Stories matter, yours included, because the journey that led you here might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to get started. I want to take a moment to talk about storytelling, because while habitat conservation and restoration often get framed as scientific or technical efforts, what really drives them forward is relationship. Now, don't get me wrong, facts and data are essential. We absolutely need science to guide good policy and sound practices. But when it comes to shifting hearts, minds, and behaviors, stories are what move people. I think of the stories that shaped me. One that stayed with me is from Bambi, that chilling line, "Man is in the forest." Even now it lands hard. It taught me early on that humans aren't just bystanders. We're a force in nature, too often a destructive one, but we also have the power to be a positive one. And the choices we make, big or small, ripple outward. You have a story too. Maybe yours started when you planted a milkweed and a monarch showed up, or when your garden buzzed with bees and you realized, I helped make this happen. Maybe it goes back to a childhood camping trip, a favorite book, or just a quiet moment outside that stayed with you. Whatever sparked your connection to nature, it matters, because when you share what moves you, what brought you here, you help light the way for someone else. You make this work feel possible and personal. We're not just planting gardens, we're planting values. And in a time when wildlife and ecosystems are struggling to find a foothold, we have to speak up. Native plants and the creatures they support can't tell their stories, but we can. What you do in your garden is important. It's meaningful. But what you share with your story, your knowledge, your experience, even your surplus plants and seeds, that's what builds a movement. It's easy to think of your garden as the finish line, like you've done your part, check the box. But really, it's just the beginning. Every native plant you put in the ground, every square foot of lawn you let go of, sends a ripple outward. It creates space for life and signals to others, this is possible. Even a small garden or a few containers on a balcony can hold ecological meaning and cultural weight. It's not about scale, it's about intention. What you grow in your yard isn't just plants, it's possibility. Native gardens rebuild relationships between pollinators and petals, soil and seed, and between people and place. When these gardens are visible, they do even more. They invite others in. I think of a story shared in a native landscaping workshop in Southern California. The designer had changed her whole business model. She only did front yards. Why? Because she'd seen the ripple effect. One front yard turned native, and in a year or two, 4 more on the same street followed. People need to see the change to make the change. One visible garden becomes a catalyst. And that's what makes this work so powerful. Every native garden you plant sends a signal. It shows what's possible. It invites curiosity. And that curiosity spreads yard to yard, neighbor to neighbor, block to block. When you plant with purpose, you help others imagine what's possible. That's how private action becomes public momentum. Let's acknowledge why this work matters, why your garden, your choices, your voice are so important right now. We are witnessing a steep decline in insect and bird populations across ecosystems. Once common species are vanishing before our eyes. Climate change and habitat loss are amplifying the stress on already fragmented ecosystems, pushing more species to the edge. But here's the good news. Native plants give us a way to push back. They anchor and fuel local food webs. They provide the habitat and nutrition that wildlife, from soil microbes to apex raptors, depend on to survive and thrive. This isn't just about beauty, it's about responsibility. Our response must be rooted in restoration and reconnection, and not just in action, but in attitude, in a spirit of respect and reciprocity with the natural world. Because when we care for the land cares for us, and that relationship of giving and receiving is the foundation for lasting change. So let's talk about the lawn. Because it's not just a patch of grass, it's a symbol. Lawns have become the default landscape in much of the country. But what do they really offer? Lawns require constant maintenance, water, chemicals, mowing, and in return they offer very little back to the ecosystem. No food, no shelter, no meaningful support for life. But native landscapes are different. They're generous. They offer beauty, yes, but they also offer biodiversity, resilience, and renewal. They support pollinators and birds. They heal soil. They cool the air. But what if we stopped seeing lawns as neutral? What if we saw them as missed opportunities and reimagined every yard as a haven for life? That's not just a landscaping choice. That's a value shift, and it starts quite literally at your doorstep. When we rethink the lawn, we start to see landscapes differently, not as private, isolated spaces, but as part of something bigger. Nature runs on networks. Roots and fungi connect and converse underground. Pollinators move from flower to flower. Birds follow migration routes shaped by season and habitat. Nothing thrives in isolation, and neither do we. When we connect our yards, we build more than corridors for wildlife. We create opportunities for conversation, collaboration, and shared purpose. A neighbor asks about your garden. A passerby notices the bumblebees. A child finds a caterpillar on a milkweed. That spark of curiosity becomes a bridge, and enough bridges form a network. One connection sparks another. When we link our yards, we're not just helping pollinators find their next flower. We're creating space for people to find common ground. Because resilience, ecological or cultural, doesn't grow in isolation. It grows through connection between people, places, and purpose. When we act together, we don't just restore nature, we restore connection. And that's how we build a culture where both biodiversity and belonging can thrive. The Less Lawn, More Life challenge may start with individual action, but it flourishes in community. You're not alone in this journey. Finding your people, those who delight in seedlings or know the patience behind prairie building, can make all the difference. We are your support system. While rewilding begins with a single yard, its real power is in the connections it fosters, gardener to gardener, neighbor to neighbor, person to place. I'll never forget my first Wild Ones event. It was a tour of a suburban backyard prairie, right there, tucked in between driveways and fences. The space was humming with life. The diversity of plant species was astounding. It felt like stepping back in time, a glimpse of the land before roads, houses, and power lines. I showed up as a curious gardener looking for answers. But what I found was a group of people learning, sharing, and growing, rooted in the same hope for a healthier, more connected world. We were all struck by the potential, the possibility, that sense of welcome, of community. It stuck with me. And that's the spirit of this movement. The Less Lawn, More Life Challenge has reached thousands, inspiring people to reimagine their yards and their roles as stewards. Our partners offer tools and resources to help you grow your impact. Particularly relevant to this conversation are Homegrown National Parks tips on how to talk to neighbors about native plants and turn curiosity into meaningful conversations. If you are looking for regional guidance or opportunities to get involved beyond your garden, Wild One's growing network of chapters empowers local leaders, cultivates shared learning, and brings our vision to life. Native plants and natural landscapes thriving in every community. Together, we are shifting the cultural narrative from isolation to interconnection, from scarcity to stewardship. This movement isn't just about transforming lawns, it's about transforming lives. Every new garden, every shared story, every community event adds momentum. Together, we're not only growing native plants, we're growing a future rooted in care, shaped by collaboration, and sustained by community. As the native landscaping movement grows, so must the chorus of voices that shape it. If we want this work to be truly transformative, it can't just reflect one kind of story or one kind of experience. We need to open the circle and invite in diverse perspectives. We need to hear from young people with fresh ideas, artists who help us see differently, farmers with generational ties to the land, and indigenous and traditional ecological knowledge keepers, people whose relationships with nature may differ from our own, but are equally valuable. So ask yourself, who needs to be part of this conversation? Whose story could help others feel seen, or spark a new idea, or reintroduce a practice to restore balance to the land? We know from nature that diversity builds resilience. The same is true for communities and for movements. More voices mean better ideas, stronger solutions, and a greater sense of belonging. This isn't just about plants, it's about people. It's about creating a culture of care that reflects and respects the richness of our shared world. When we widen the circle of voices, we also deepen our relationship with the places we call home. Native plants don't just restore ecosystems, they help us reconnect with the cultural and ecological identity of a region. They root us in the story of the land. Many of us may not have grown up in these landscapes or inherited traditional ecological knowledge, but we can still listen, learn, and honor the wisdom these places hold. When we plant what belongs here, we begin to rebuild not only habitat, but relationship. It's an opportunity to acknowledge the stewardship practiced by Indigenous peoples for generations, and to ask what a more balanced way of living might look like today. Encourage your neighbors, homeowners associations or HOAs, and local leaders to design with place in mind. When we plant with intention, we restore more than habitat. We cultivate a sense of belonging. As we acknowledge the land and the stories it holds, we also need to recognize where each of us is starting from. This work should feel accessible, not intimidating. No matter your background, gardening experience, or the size of your outdoor space, everyone can participate. Some people garden in big yards, others in small containers on balconies, and some may be just learning what a native plant is. We all start somewhere. What matters most is that we start and that we support one another as we grow. Mistakes are not failures. They're like compost, nourishing the soil for new growth. When a planting doesn't thrive or a plan needs tweaking, you gain valuable insight. Each experience teaches you something new and helps you adapt your approach. Embrace the process, try new things, learn from what doesn't work, and keep growing with curiosity. And don't forget to share what you discover along the way. Often the most inspiring and insightful stories come from honest accounts of challenges and surprises. This movement isn't about perfect gardens or being experts. It's about making space for everyone to feel they belong, to celebrate every effort, every garden, every voice. Our strength lies in supporting each other and growing together, no matter where we start. This movement isn't just about where we start, it's about who comes after us. Planting with purpose does more than restore habitat. It opens the door to discovery, and kids are some of the most eager explorers you'll meet. Young people are wired for wonder. They chase butterflies, dig in the dirt, ask big questions, and observe the world in ways adults often forget. We can meet that energy with experiences that spark curiosity and care. Pollinator parades, garden crawls, scavenger hunts, bug safaris, outdoor story times, nature-themed arts and crafts offer kids a chance to get their hands dirty. Opportunities for direct contact with nature lay the groundwork for stewardship. They build confidence, curiosity, and compassion, qualities we need more of in this world. Parents, teachers, scout leaders, and librarians are natural champions, but so are grandparents, neighbors, and even older students. Park staff, nature center educators, homeschool groups, and youth mentors all play a role in sparking curiosity. The more welcoming and visible our efforts, the more kids and their grown-ups see themselves as part of something worth growing into. Wild Ones is proud to support youth engagement through programs like the Seeds for Education grant, which helps youth-focused organizations create native plant gardens as living classrooms that teach science, responsibility, and connection to nature. By involving young people in planting and care, the program cultivates future stewards and expands native habitat. As students grow, they're taking the lead, pushing for herbicide-free campuses, organizing pollinator gardens, and asking for more sustainable landscapes in their schools and communities. Let's nurture that momentum. Let's reach out to the next generation, not just as future gardeners, but as future leaders. Because when we invite young people into this work early, they don't just learn how to care for native plants, they learn how to care, period. As we grow this movement, we expand the circle of collaboration. This work isn't just about planting. It's about sharing knowledge, widening access, and building a culture of care through collective effort. Some of the most impactful native plant projects aren't happening in residential neighborhoods. They're happening when community members come together to transform landscapes in public spaces. Think partnerships with parks departments, libraries, water utilities, museums, health centers, and faith communities. These collaborations extend the reach of native plant education and introduce more people to habitat gardening. Wild Ones volunteers are showing up in public spaces in ways that feel fresh and inviting. We're bringing the mission to farmers markets, local fairs, Earth Day events, and home and garden shows. Breweries and tap rooms are popular gathering places too, and our chapters have hosted lively events like Bugs and Brews, Pints and Plants, and Drink and Design, exchanging ideas, seeds, and native plant stories in relaxed, welcoming spaces. We're also connecting people directly to plants. Wild Ones chapters organize native plant sales, often in partnership with local nurseries and other organizations, to meet the growing demand and make it easier for community members to find regionally appropriate species. These sales aren't just transactions. They're touch points for learning, for asking questions, for getting excited about what's possible in your own yard or neighborhood. One great example comes from the Wild Ones Habitat Gardening in Central New York chapter, which hosted an online Meet the Growers event. They invited 5 local nursery owners to share their personal journeys into native plant production. It was educational, inspiring, and a reminder that every native plant sale represents a relationship between the growers, the plants, and the community. Collaborative programming like this doesn't just teach. It connects. It supports local businesses, amplifies conservation efforts, and helps more people take that first step toward action. When we pool resources, stories, and energy, we build something bigger than a single event or garden. We build a community rooted in shared purpose. What you plant in a garden matters, But what you share with others, how you make it visible, understandable, and inspiring, matters even more. Native landscapes don't just restore habitat, they reframe what people believe is possible. They change perceptions, sparks curiosity, and shift behavior. Whether planted in a yard, a parkway, a street median, or a college, community, or corporate campus, gardens can model change. When people see it, they start to believe it. That's why visibility matters. Residential gardens are impactful. They start conversations, invite questions, and show neighbors what's doable. But a native garden in a public space can reach thousands. Both are vital to this growing movement. In last week's challenge, we explored ways to signal that a garden is intentional. This week, we go further, because people don't just need to see native landscapes, they need to understand them. Plants can't talk, but a well-placed sign, plant label, or QR code can. Especially in public spaces, these tools help gardens tell their story, what's planted, why it matters, and how others can get involved. They also meet people where they are, online, on their phones, ready to learn more. With the right tools, a simple planting can become a powerful act of public education. Many Wild Ones members certify their yards and the public garden projects they support through our Certified Native Habitat program. Certification signage signals intention and shows that the space is actively supporting life. Wild Ones highlights member gardens through our blog, a quarterly journal, and at chapter-organized garden tours. Telling a garden's story, online, in print, in person, extends the impact far beyond the garden bed. A great example of this is the Green Vine Garden, a hellstrip garden in downtown Denver. It began as a beautification project outside a historic dance hall, but over time, the design was reimagined with climate resilience and habitat in mind. Volunteers from the Wild Ones Front Range chapter redesigned the space using native plants, recycled materials, and creative water harvesting techniques. 2 summers ago, I helped lead a tour of the garden. A Denver Park staffer who happened to walk by stopped to say how much he loved it. He told us he's encouraged coworkers to drive by and see what's possible in a small space with limited resources. That's what visibility can do. One garden, clearly marked, thoughtfully shared, can change what people think is possible. And it can start the conversations that lead to broader cultural and policy change, which we'll explore next. If we want to see lasting change, we have to move beyond the garden bed and into the rooms where decisions are made. Public policies reflect public values. They shape what's allowed, what's encouraged, and what gets funded. But many landscaping ordinances are based on outdated assumptions and often penalize the very practices that restore habitat and build climate resilience. It's up to us to ensure the rules reflect values like care, conservation, and connection. The good news? Rules can be rewritten, and they are because people like you show up and speak up. You don't have to be a policy expert to make a difference. Attend local meetings, share your story, help decision makers see that native landscapes aren't just good for pollinators, they're good for people. Talk about community pride, cleaner water, cooler streets, and mental well-being. Those are messages that resonate. And come with solutions. Encourage your city or HOA to revisit outdated policies. Recommend demonstration gardens in parks or along public paths. And one of the simplest, most effective steps? Invite local officials to a garden tour or educational event. Seeing the beauty, the buzz, and the benefits firsthand can change the conversation. If you want guidance on how to be a more effective advocate, enroll in Rewild Your Campus's Ground Up Advocacy Bootcamp, a 2-day virtual training that equips emerging leaders with skills in coalition building, campaign strategy, and environmental justice advocacy while exploring the impacts of pesticides and empowering participants to launch their own community campaigns. If you have the time, consider joining an advisory committee or serving on your HOA board. The people who show up are the ones who shape what happens next. Remember, advocacy isn't just about pointing out what's broken. It's about building relationships, offering solutions, and sharing a hopeful vision of what's possible. When your city or HOA takes a positive step, acknowledge it. Say thank you. Decision makers often only hear from the public when something goes wrong. Your support affirms their efforts and reinforces the value of investing in native plant landscaping. Together, our voices can shift the conversation and the rules and help grow a future that reflects the world we want to live in. Advocacy matters, but so does something even simpler, helping others take their first steps. This movement grows through relationships, encouragement, and generosity. Not everyone has access to land, but everyone can help something grow. Share seeds, offer extra plants, invite a curious neighbor into your yard, or chat with a passerby at the demonstration garden you help steward. A short conversation or a simple tour can spark a whole new journey. Native plant gardeners are some of the most generous people I know. They freely share plants, seeds, tools, time, advice, and stories. One of my favorite expressions of this generosity is through native seed swaps, pay-it-forward events where people exchange seeds harvested from their own gardens or ethically collected with permission from natural areas. These gatherings not only help others get started, but also strengthen community resilience in the face of drought, floods, wildfires, and other climate impacts. It's such a joy to collect and share seeds, especially when I get to share the stories behind them. That spirit of generosity mirrors nature itself, abundant, adaptive, and interconnected. If someone's just starting out, consider being a mentor. You don't need all the answers, just a willingness to listen, share what's worked for you and what didn't, and remind them perfection isn't the goal, participation is. When we pay it forward, we grow more than gardens. We grow community capacity, climate resilience, and a shared sense of purpose. That's what keeps this movement alive. The native landscaping movement needs more than gardeners. It needs the full range of what people have to offer. What you plant matters, but what you share with others, that's where the real impact happens. You don't need a green thumb to make a difference. Maybe you're a natural leader, an event planner, or a tech whiz. Maybe you're skilled in organizing, bookkeeping, graphic design, or storytelling. Love writing, mentoring, or managing a project? All of that belongs here. Movements grow stronger when we each show up in ways that reflect our skills, experiences, and passions. So ask yourself, what am I good at? What do I love doing? And how do I bring that into this work? This is your invitation to use your talents to grow something bigger than yourself. Volunteer with your local Wild Ones chapter. Support mission-aligned organizations. Start a project, or simply reach out and ask, how can I help? The native plant movement is about restoration, and that includes restoring a sense of shared purpose and of being part of something greater than ourselves. And when you bring your voice, experience, and energy to this movement, you expand its reach, its resilience, and its relevance. In just 12 weeks, you've done something powerful. You didn't just take on a set of challenges, you took part in a movement. You chose to act, to learn, to pay attention. And in doing so, you help bring life back to the places you call home. Native plants restore more than soil. They restore soul. They remind us that healing is possible, that we're part of something larger, that care for land, for community, for each other matters. Maybe what changed was your yard. Maybe it was your mindset. Maybe it was a conversation with a neighbor that shifted how they see the land too. This work doesn't stay rooted in garden beds. It reseeds into sidewalks and schoolyards, into policy and planning, into how we see ourselves in the web of life. The future we're sowing is rich, rooted, and resilient. And it's thriving because people like you tend to it with care and intention. This may be the close of a 12-week challenge, but it's the beginning of a lifelong movement. Let's keep growing what we've started together. Thank you for being part of this journey, for everything you've planted, shared, and inspired. And thank you for spending your time with us today.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Excellent presentation as usual, hugely inspiring. And just know that the team is standing by for the next 30 minutes to continue answering lots of the questions that are in the chat and the Q&A. So keep them coming. We're all kind of tag teaming behind the scenes. But otherwise, in terms of the event and slides and whatnot, this is an official wrap for the Less Lawn, More Life Challenge 2025. Thank you so much again, everyone. We'll be in touch, and we look forward to seeing you next year. Thank you.